The Ayatollah is dead.
From Israeli sources that the Ayatollah is dead. This is breaking news again coming from Israeli sources that the Ayatollah, the supreme leader of Iran, is dead. Again, we're going to go to Jeremy Diamond. Jeremy, the strikes coming this morning that were targeting senior leadership, that's what we knew, targeting senior leadership there in Iran. And now we can say from Israeli sources that the Ayatollah of Iran, the supreme leader, is dead. What more are you learning there in Israel?
That's right, Jessica. Two Israeli sources telling me and my colleague Tal Shalev that Israel has confirmed that the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been killed as a result of those Israeli strikes that took place earlier today. One of these sources saying that Israel actually has photographic evidence of Khamenei showing his dead body. The second source told me that an official announcement is in the works, although it is possible that the Israelis will allow President Trump and the United States to make this announcement officially. But this is enormous breaking news here, that the Israeli government is confirming that the supreme leader of Iran was killed in Israeli strikes earlier today. This is a day that many Israeli government officials have hoped would come eventually. It is also, we should note, a day that many Iranian dissidents, Iranian protesters had hoped would eventually come. And indeed, it has come now, and it is an earth-shattering moment for the Middle East and for the future of Iran. We should note, however, that the supreme leader's death is not necessarily indicative of the Iran regime collapsing altogether. This regime is not based off of one person alone. It is a system that is multi-layered, and we know that the supreme leader understood very well that he could potentially be targeted for assassination should the United States and Israel choose to carry out massive strikes on Iran as they did today.
We're
and
watching,
in recent weeks and months, he has been preparing
about
for
Khamenei
potential
being
lines
killed.
of succession should that actually take place. Now, we are still waiting, of course, for any confirmation from the United States as well as to the supreme leader having been killed. But two Israeli sources familiar with the matter telling us now that the supreme leader was killed in Israeli strikes today. One last note on this is that we have also been hearing about the division of labor between the United States and Israel as it pertains to these strikes. U.S. officials have been very clear that their strikes have been focused on military targets, and that the strikes targeting senior Iranian leaders, such as the supreme leader, were being conducted by Israel and not by the United States. Ultimately, that may very well be a distinction without a difference, given the high level of coordination between the United States and Israel in preparing and carrying out these strikes. But this is obviously an enormous moment in the Middle East, something that we anticipated could potentially be a target of any Israeli or U.S. strikes on Iran. And indeed, now not only a target, but confirmed by Israeli sources that the supreme leader of Iran is dead.
Indeed, big news out of the Middle East.
And good fucking riddance, bro.
It's the potential to
have
reshape
fun in
so
hell.
many dynamics there. But again, as Jeremy notes, not a straight line to regime change. This is a piece of it, but it is a big piece of it. This is enormous news. Jeremy, I want you to stand by because we have seen those missiles that have been coming to Israel throughout the day. So stay with us. I do want to bring Jim Shudo back in. Jim, this is very big news. And again, Jeremy, it is, and so help people understand, contextualize for them that what this means, that Iran's supreme leader has been killed in these strikes by the U.S. and Israel.
These strikes are now officially decapitation strikes, right? Strikes that were intended via Israeli military action, to be clear, to take out Iran's most senior leadership. And the man you see there, Ali Khamenei, is Iran's most senior leader with enormous, certainly political power in that country, but also religious authority in that country. The structure of Iranian government being that, yes, it has a president elected, but the supreme leader lies at the top of the government, and that is that man you see speaking there, which Israeli sources are now telling CNN was killed in these strikes. Again, to my point earlier, Jessica, prior to this morning, there'd been an enormous amount of speculation as to just how far, one, the U.S. was willing to go, but Israel as well, if they were striking together. And now we know they were willing to go as far as taking out Iran's most senior leader. Now, we had reported earlier that he was not the only target of these strikes, that other senior military and other leaders in Iran were targeted. We don't know their status at this point, but as we reported earlier in the day, Israeli officials were becoming more confident over time today that they had hit at least some of their targets. Listen, in Iran, does that mean that suddenly there will be a new government, a new leader, one friendlier to the U.S.? No. An enormous network and structure of leadership and power remains in that country, military, economic, political, and otherwise. But to take out the supreme leader is a significant change. And of course, the question is, how far does that change go? Does it weaken the government to the degree that the government collapses? Does it weaken it to a degree that the protesters that we saw take on this government quite bravely in recent weeks are inspired to go out into the streets again, right? I mean, that's what President Trump was encouraging them to do explicitly in his statement this morning. Now, that's quite a risky proposition, given that government retains enormous power, and they showed they were willing to use it to deadly extent in the many thousands of protesters that they killed in recent weeks. Those are still the open questions, but we have one question answered. Was Israel willing to go so far as to take out the supreme leader of Iran? And the answer is yes, and they had success doing so.
Right. And now the big question is what comes next? Jim
Yeah.
Sciutto, stand by. I want to bring in Barak Ravid, CNN political and global affairs analyst. He's also a global affairs correspondent at Axios. Barak, I know you spoke with President Trump earlier today. Again, if you are just joining us, our breaking news is that Iran's supreme leader has been killed in these strikes. That is coming from Israeli sources. Barak, we're still waiting to hear from the president, from the U.S. government, but the Israeli sources confirming that. What more are you learning? What did the president tell you?
So first, just about Khamenei, I think around 30, 40 minutes ago, the Israeli ambassador to Washington, Yechiel Leiter, updated several U.S. officials and members of Congress that Israeli intelligence shows that Khamenei has been killed and his body was taken out of the rubble in the compound in Tehran that was attacked. I spoke to President Trump a little bit before 1 p.m. While he was in Mar-a-Lago. We spoke for around 5 minutes. The president sounded, to me at least, pretty calm and confident that things are going according to plan. I think the situation with Khamenei was one of the main things he was tracking at that moment. And what was interesting in what he told me is that I asked him, how long is this going to continue? And he said, I have several off-ramps. I can go long and take the whole thing, meaning take over Iran, something that, I don't think that's something that is seriously being considered.
That's quite a statement,
said,
yeah.
Yeah. Or I can go on for another 2-3 days and then tell the Iranians, we'll see you again in a few years if you try and rebuild your nuclear program, your missile program, meaning that Donald Trump, at least my impression from the conversation with him, is that he's looking to end this thing within a few days and basically put an ultimatum to the Iranians. We can get a deal, or you can try and rebuild your program, and then we'll just bomb you again if you try to do this. And I think that was one of the messages that U.S. officials that just briefed reporters, I think 10 minutes ago, said that when the 12-day war ended after Operation Midnight Hammer, the U.S. told Iran, if you try to rebuild, we will come again. And those U.S. officials said that the Iranians, according to U.S. intelligence, did try and rebuild the program. So we know from satellite imagery that the Iranians started infrastructure work in several of the nuclear sites that were attacked in June. We do not know whether they really tried to resume a nuclear program, meaning enrichment and other activities. One of the interesting things I heard from President Trump is that he told me that he thinks that Operation Midnight Hammer allowed Operation Epic Fury to go forward. Because President Trump claimed that if he did not go on that operation last June, if he did not order a strike on those 3 nuclear facilities, Iran would have been much, much closer to a nuclear weapon, maybe even have a nuclear weapon by now, according to what President Trump said. And that would make the current operation much harder, maybe even impossible.
Is your city in?
Yeah, neighbor Rooney. Bum ba da dum bum bum ba ba bum ba da bum bum ba da ba da bum ba ba bum
I also nations. I also categorically reject the assertion made by the representative of France, the United Kingdom, and certain other Western members regarding Iran's peaceful nuclear program. These claims lack a factual and legal basis. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of the Israeli regime have openly claimed responsibility for this act of aggression and have explicitly articulated regime change as their objective, an unmistakable admission of their intent to violate Iran's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The President of the United States has falsely described this aggression as necessary to neutralize an imminent threat to the American people. This is nothing more than a deliberate attempt to mislead the international community and the U.S. public opinion and manufacture consent for unlawful war. Similarly, the representative of the United States has cynically sought to mislead this council, yet history provides ample documentation that the foreign policy of the United States has repeatedly relied on unlawful force, covert intervention, and political manipulation to alter the governments of other member states. This record is well established.
Wikipedia is still ready to say what, not ready to say was yet.
The reality is clear and undeniable. What is taking place today against my country by the United States and the terrorist regime of Israel is a blatant act of aggression, a full-fledged violation of international law. No justification, no accusation, no narrative of disinformation can legitimize or excuse this manifest crime and aggression. Mr. President, we have communicated on several occasions with this Council and the Secretary General about warmongering statements and interfering actions in the internal affairs of Iran by the President of the U.S. in a blatant violation of the UN Charter and international law, and called for the Council action. Regrettably, all were unanswered. The issue before the Council is straightforward: whether any member state may, including a permanent member of this Council, through the use of force, coercion, or aggression, determine the political future of another state or impose control over its affairs. International law and the Charter are explicit on this matter. Article 2, paragraph 4 of the Charter categorically prohibits the threats of use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. Mr. President, against this backdrop, I would like to make the following points. 1. What is occurring against my country is a clear act of aggression. It is an open armed aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran. The United States and Israel war today is not merely a war against Iran. It is a war against the Charter of the United Nations, a war against international law, and a war against the international legal order upon which the United Nations and the Security Council have been built for over 8 decades. As the Charter affirms, the United Nations was established to save succeeding generations from a scourge of war. The Charter, adopted in 1945, is founded upon this fundamental principle. Members shall refrain from threat or use of force in international relations. The sole exception is the inherent right of self-defense under Article 51, and only in the event of an armed attack. The military aggression carried out by the United States and Israel satisfies none of the criteria of lawful self-defense. Accordingly, the action of the United States and Israel constitute a
Previous point in Trump, though, it sounded like you want us to do the necessary work to clean up the mess we're making and help out with the regime change. Well, yeah.
First violation
that's
of
not
Article
surprising.
2, a peremptory where this otherwise no international legal order could
Yeah, I did.
endure the rule of law would be replaced by the rule of force. 2. In responding to aggression on large-scale war, the Islamic Republic of Iran is exercising its inherent
Let's
and
go,
lawful right of self-defense
Elmo!
under Article 51 of the
I have
Charter
a couple
of
Israelis
the
who just
United
moved in
Nations.
next door, by the
Armed
way.
force of
They're
the
celebrating. We're all
Republic of Iran are
celebrating.
utilizing all the necessary defensive capabilities and means to confront this criminal aggression and deter the hostile acts. Consequently, all bases, facilities, and assets of the hostile forces in the region shall
I have
be
a
regarded
couple Israelis who
as
just moved in next door to
military
me.
objective within the
They were
framework
celebrating.
of
We're all
Iran's
celebrating.
lawful exercise of self-defense. Iran will continue to exercise its right of self-defense decisively and without hesitation until the aggression ceases in full and unequivocal terms. 3. Iran remains firmly committed to respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of its neighboring countries. Under no circumstances will we target the sovereignty, people, or interests of our neighboring countries in the Persian Gulf. Our legitimate response have been directed solely and exclusively at the bases and assets of the hostile government of the United States that operate beyond the control of the host states. Priority has been given to the targets that diminish the aggressor capability and capacity to continue its malign actions. We had previously and formally conveyed this warning to the Secretary General and the Security Council. 4. Despite continuous U.S. hostile policy, we were sincerely and seriously pursuing the path of diplomacy and dialogue to reach a just, fair, and sustainable agreement. Yet, for the second time in the midst of the negotiation, the United States betrayed diplomacy and resorted to force and
Riposo,
launched
have
an
fun
attack
in
against our
hell.
country in blatant violation of Charter of the United Nations, presently interfering in Iran's internal affairs. They are even calling on the
True.
people to
No
riot
rip.
against their own
Look,
government.
fuck off,
The
bozo.
recent record of the United States toward Iran is equally clear. Since January 2025, the U.S. administration against instated the hostile approach, including the policy of so-called maximum pressure and economic stimulation.
Let's go. Nika. Come here. Come here. We needed needed that. We needed that.
Are not sufficient. The Council must act. Pursuant to Article 39
Come here.
of the Charter,
Come here, baby.
the Security Council must
You've been summoned.
immediately determine the United States and
Yeah.
Israeli regime have committed
We are
an act of
happy.
aggression and demand the immediate cessation of its
Happy
unlawful
girl.
use of force, including any explicit or implicit
They're not
threats
going to let you
against
sleep
Iran
tonight,
and
Almog.
require binding assurance,
At least not for a while.
non-deportation. Affirm that the United States and Israeli regime bear full international responsibility for all materials and moral damage inflicted upon the infrastructure and facilities of the Islamic Republic of Iran and are obligated to provide full reparation. Let me conclude, Mr. President, with a simple and undeniable truth. Israel and the United States have attacked Iran. They have violated international law and the Charter of the United Nations. They must be
Who's your
held
girl?
accountable.
Who's your
So
girl?
long as this
Come here.
aggression continues, Iran will continue to exercise its inherent right of self-defense firmly, proportionately, and without hesitation until the aggression ends. The Security Council must act now.
Taiwan relations and more land. I support amending the Taiwan Relations Act to drop our strategic ambiguity towards defending the island militarily,
Okay.
not touching the one China policy outlined in the Shanghai Communique. So if Taiwan is invaded, I want to ensure that we've codified passive support to sell Taiwan weapons if Congress wills it, so Trump just can't overrule it, or whoever the president is. That's in Congress's hands, and that we can militarily step in to defend Taiwan with naval fleets for interception and selling weapons. This is kind of like a 1-2 punch. Let's make sure that we have
These are pretty
deterrence
well-formed
first. I
opinions.
always prioritize diplomatic solutions before any sort of intervention, but almost making Taiwan a porcupine that is difficult to invade, and then committing to step in to defend Taiwan from invasion and more land. I support amending the Taiwan Relations Act to drop our strategic ambiguity towards defending the island militarily, not touching the one China policy outlined in the Shanghai Communique. So if Taiwan is invaded, I want to ensure that we've codified passive support to sell Taiwan weapons if Congress wills it, so Trump just can't overrule it, or whoever the president is. That's in Congress's hands, and that we can militarily step in to defend Taiwan with naval fleets for interception and selling weapons. This is kind of like a 1-2 punch. Let's make sure that we have deterrence first. I always prioritize diplomatic solutions before any sort of intervention, but almost making Taiwan a porcupine that is difficult to invade, and then committing to step in to defend Taiwan from invasion and more land. I support amendment.
Infrastructure, ballistic missile sites, the machinery of repression that fuels terror across our region. We did not act of impulse. We did not act of aggression. We acted
Go ahead.
out of necessity
Up.
because the Iranian regime left no reasonable alternative. This joint effort will continue for as long as the threat remains. We thank President Trump and acknowledge the close cooperation between Israel and the US, which has brought the alliance between our countries to an all-time high, in peace and in war. Let us be clear about what we are confronting. This regime has built nuclear weapons in blatant disregard of international law and UN resolutions. It has brutally murdered its own citizens and crushed dissent. It's happened now as we speak in cities in Iran. It has expanded missile arsenals and armed proxies across the region. It has openly declared its intention to erase Israel from the map. Now, as it faces consequences, it is launching missiles and drones across the region, endangering the UAE, where a Pakistani citizen unfortunately was killed. Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Iraq. As we speak, in the last hour, a rocket targeted the city of Tel Aviv. Civilians, they don't target military bases. Civilians struck a building in Tel Aviv. An innocent woman was killed and 21 people were injured. This is a regime that destabilizes wherever it reaches. It spreads violence outward while crushing freedom at home. It is not reacting, it is expanding. It is a machinery of radicalism that does not recognize borders.
I don't know. I think they want to.
Mr. President,
With their economic
diplomacy-
situation getting increasingly more tenuous, she is going to feel more and more pressure to do so.
and allow full inspections. Iran did none of it. Instead, it fortified its nuclear facilities so we cannot get to them, accelerated missile production, and continued to fund terror. Since the last operation in the summer, they spent billions on their proxies. The resolutions were clear. The strategy was just as clear. Delay, delay, delay. But we will not be played. And it's simple what they were planning. They were building the means to corner us, to force an irreversible reality with our backs against the wall. That is not a future Israel will accept. No responsible nation should. This operation,
I mean, it could be,
guided
but
by
they might
clear
also be
objectives.
deterred. I don't know.
eliminate immediate threats,
It's difficult to understand.
dismantle the nuclear program, destroy its ballistic missile production, neutralize naval threats, break the proxy network that destabilizes the region.
Look at how mad this guy
The
is.
operation was carried out in order to protect
They
the
did,
people of Israel.
but that was a power consolidation move. That was a power consolidation move.
And in accordance with international law. Our
That was a
forces
move to
stand-
like remove any potential roadblocks to an invasion of Taiwan.
to the soldiers of the IDF, our boys and girls, my son, my daughter. We salute you. You stand like lions defending our people. An entire nation stands behind you. We have heard the condemnation from few member states, from the Secretary General. But we all know that escalation did not begin today. It began when Iran armed proxies and exported terror, expanded missiles and drones, advanced its nuclear program in violation of its commitments, turned on its own people, beating, imprisoning, executing. Where was the outrage of the UN? Where were the consequences? Now, Israel acts to prevent an irreversible threat, and the condemnation is immediate. This is the definition of hypocrisy. Some call this aggression. We call it necessity. We call it survival. Mr. President, history has taught us never to ignore those who openly call for our destruction. When a regime says it will destroy Israel, when it chants death to Israel, when it promises to wipe Haifa and Tel Aviv off the map, we believe it. We genuinely believe it. When we see those hundreds of ballistic missiles that they are launching to Israel, we believe the threats. We do not ignore them. We do not gamble with our survival. We act. Now let me address the brave people of Iran. You are not our enemies. This operation is not directed at you. It is directed at a regime that has silenced you, imprisoned you, and invested in missiles and uranium while your economy suffers. You deserve better. It is this regime, the Basij, the Revolutionary Guard, who have dragged your country into isolation. The world does not fear a free Iran. It fears a radical regime armed with nuclear weapons and driven by extremism. Your future should not be defined by those who chant for death. As President Trump had said, the Iranian people deserve dignity, security, and the chance to shape their own destiny. We are thinking about you. You are seen. You are not alone. The future of Iran belongs to its people. We stand with you. Mr. President, this week, Jewish families all around the world celebrate Purim. Many Israelis will do so now in a bomb shelter. The story of Purim happened more than 2,500 years ago, in the same place. In ancient Persia, an evil minister by the name of Haman sought to wipe out the Jewish people. And it began with words, with chants. It became a decree. It could have become a genocide. But Queen Esther refused to remain silent. She stepped forward, she spoke up, she acted before it was too late. That is the lesson we learned. It is not only an ancient lesson, it is a modern one. Last week, I stood at the gates of Auschwitz with dozens of UN ambassadors. We stood in a place that shows what happens when radicalism and extremism grows and no one stops it in time. Before the Holocaust, some leaders, serious leaders, believed that they could calm aggression with concessions. They were completely wrong. Giving in did not stop evil. It strengthened it. Winston Churchill understood what Queen Esther understood long before him. When destruction is declared and weapons are being prepared and assembled, leaders must act. Not later. Now. Today, President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu understand that same lesson. For decades, the Iranian regime has built missiles, enriched uranium, armed proxies, and spread terror far beyond its borders. This regime is not only Israel's enemy. It is an enemy of stability, an enemy of every peace-loving nation. In this joint operation, Israel and the US are acting together, not because we see conflict.
Oh shit.
Because we refuse to ignore declared destruction. We are stopping extremism before it becomes unstoppable. We will
Minor
ensure
fire.
that no radical regime armed with nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles
This
can
baby
threaten
motherfucker better
our
not
people
blow up my nuclear shit,
or
or I'm
the
gonna go
entire
loco
world.
on this bitch. And then he
Thank you,
blows
Mr.
up all my nuclear shit, and I'm like, call my general.
Israel.
And they tell me,
statement.
they're all dead,
I will
sir.
now give the floor.
And I'm like,
His
assemble the
Excellency
army.
Mr.
And they're
Majid
like,
A.
they're
Abdulaziz,
dead too, sir.
Permanent observer.
So then I'm
of the
like,
League of Arab States.
launch
United
the
Nations.
friggin' missiles. They're like,
Thank you, Mr.
sir, they're gone, sir.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
for convening
what
this
the
emergency
fuck?
session today.
I also extend my thanks to the Secretary General for his powerful and comprehensive briefing. The Security Council convenes today at a pivotal moment in the history of the United Nations, a moment that unfortunately represents a glaring failure of the multilateral international system, a failure the League of Arab States has long warned against. Regrettably, it is a moment in which the Arab-Israeli conflict has expanded into a full-scale regional war, through which Israel seeks, through this escalation, to evade ending its occupation.
Oh, Leo's about to jump in VC. This is gonna be an interesting one, guys. Hello.
Hello. How are you? How are you?
Good. How are you? How are you? So what I'm asking is, okay, when Barcode wrote, don't forget the part where mandatory conscription makes all of them a valid military target. And then you said that's obviously BS, you know, assuming that most people aren't actually going to believe that, right? Most people who are anti-Israeli aren't actually going to believe that. Why do you not grant the same deference to Israeli citizens when it comes to Palestinians, assuming that they all are bloodthirsty genocidal monsters, rather than understand?
All of them.
Well, hang on. Let me finish. No, most of them. First of all, I've seen a lot of the polls that you've posted, and they're worded very particularly. But second of all, this idea that they are just okay with all the Palestinian civilians dying without any sort of context regarding the legalities of armed conflict or the use of human shields, and that adapting something to become a valid military target under actual international law, I mean, none of that is accounted for in any of these polls. And the wording is done in a way where that can't be accounted for in any of these polls. So I wonder, why do we just assume that these, like, all of, I mean, like, how many Israelis do you know personally? Not like on X, because that's fucking stupid. People talk shit and they all get turned into keyboard warriors. But like actual Israelis, have you met and do you know?
I have not met any Israeli.
Okay.
I'm pretty glad that I did not.
I know many. In fact, my neighbors who just moved in are Israeli. Okay, and not a single one of them actually wants to see every single Palestinian civilian slaughtered because of the fact that they are Palestinians. Almog says, I don't know any. He's Israeli.
Okay, let me give a more specific breakdown of what I believe here. Like, I believe that most of them, when I say that most of them don't, like, are monsters, I don't refer specifically to them believing that everyone should be slaughtered. I refer to the fact that the large majority of them don't care about the deaths that any action that their government may have on different ethnicities.
Okay.
Like
so
I am referring.
yeah.
Wait. Let me finish. Because there are different types of polling. There are the polling about. Do you believe that when the IDF takes a city, it should slaughter every person? Like, there are, like, in those kind of polling, it's a minority. I don't remember. There was one that I saw that was around 40% that believed this. So, but this is the most extreme position. But there are polling like the one that we saw that I showed there about specifically the if you care about the suffering of the that results in the civilians.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem that I think we're running into, and that a lot of people are running into, looking from the outside in. From the outside in, we have the luxury of caring about the situation of ethnicities and groups of people. If you're talking about what Israelis care about the security of their country and their own families and their own lives. So I think to sit there and just be like, they are not paying attention to this group of people and this ethnicity when they themselves are worried about the security of their own country and their own people. We're kind of missing the point. The whole point is that they want to do what is necessary to protect their country and their borders. Now, do I think in some cases that's too much? Do I think the current Israeli regime probably goes too hard and doesn't care enough about those things? Yes. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the attitude of the Israeli people as, quote unquote, genocidal monsters, which, again, the intent is not genocide. Look, the intent is security and protection.
Look, there is 2 points here that I would make. One is that in all of these cases that we have been seeing in this one and other ones, they are the one who are attacking other. They are not they are being hit in response to a war they started.
Well, hang on. I hope you're not talking about. I hope you're not talking about Iran.
Right now, they have started a war.
Well, yes, but this is not. This is a smaller part of an ongoing conflict. This is not out of nowhere. Iran.
The only thing that you can say that they did not that it was an aggression of some sort are when there was October 7 and when they were
Hezbollah as well.
Yeah, when there were attacks by without being previously attacked by them.
Well, hang on, really quick, just to break it down. October 7th, yes, and then Hezbollah had been launching missiles into Israel since October 8th, before they eventually invaded Lebanon. They gave them a lot of time. Almog, we have an Israeli in chat who says, ask him if Israel gave the Druze or something a nuclear weapon and attack Iran with, would he think it's Israel's aggression against Iran?
In this case, they have started this war.
Well, let me ask this question. Hang on. Let's say Israel gave the Druze weapons and money and funding, and then the Druze took those weapons and immediately attacked Iran. Would you consider that Israeli aggression?
Well, it will be a proxy war, as there have been several others.
But do you consider a proxy war, not just the proxies as aggressors, but the funders and suppliers knowing full well what they're doing as aggressors as well? Yes.
It is still an aggression, but it's less direct.
That's fine. It's less direct, but it's still an act of aggression. So to say that this with Iran was started out of nowhere by Israel, when we know that Iran has been funding proxy conflicts against Israel for a very, very long time, I don't think it's entirely accurate. Well,
but also, look, there was one poll that hit me.
Well, before we move on, can you just sort of acknowledge the point that I just made? Do you not think that that's accurate?
The thing about the proxy war being an aggression.
Yeah, because we know Iran
it is an aggression.
Yeah, and they were funding these groups knowing full well they were immediately going to turn around and use them against Israel, right? There's no other use that they were going to have for them, except for maybe Hezbollah in Syria, which is its own set of atrocities as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is true that Iran has done this kind of funding for groups that were aligned with it through the years. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
But
so to characterize this as simply Israel being the first aggressor, I don't think is entirely accurate within the context, and that's my overlying point. But yeah, go ahead. You said you had a poll that you wanted to.
No, I mean, this one, I mean, I didn't check updates on it much, but I remember when was Trump? In January 2025, there was when Trump first proposed the plan. When he was elected, he was inaugurated, and then he, he did the first ceasefire thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this poll about his plan for ethnic removing the for an ethnic cleansing of Gaza. Okay, and there was a polling of Israelis on that, and I was shocked.
You understand how that was presented to them, right? Like, we were able to see through that and say, this is an ethnic cleansing, we don't really support that. But you understand how that was presented to Israelis and the people there, which was, we're going to rebuild Gaza, make it a great place, and then if Gazans want to come back and live here, make a life here, that's great. That's how they were presented. It wasn't presented as, we're going to kick them all out and fuck them, we're not going to leave them with anything. Right. And also, Almog, the Israeli in my chat, also to Israelis, removing them equals no more terrorism, keeping them equals more possible terrorism, which is a continuation of the conflict. So again, the calculation is not about ethnicities or ethnic cleansing; it's about safety and protecting the people of Israel. Right.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, the security thing, like, I mean, for them they are the same thing because they live in a sort of solipsism, where they only their own. Only themselves exist. To them, only themselves are, only their own lives are worth anything.
No. If you attack them, if there's a desire to hurt Israelis, they're going to want to hurt you back and stop them first. But if you make peace with them, they make peace with you. Look at Egypt, look at Jordan, look at other, look at Gulf states for the most part. I mean, except for Yemen, of course. There's example after example after example of them doing exactly that.
I mean, you have recently, there has been, first there has been Akabi, okay, that did that insane statement about the Greater Israel thing. But now you have had also Lapid saying something like that.
Yeah, but if we're being realistic, the idea of Greater Israel is unlikely to happen without war facilitating it, right? So the only time we've actually seen Israel annex land is during a conflict. They don't out of nowhere do it, and also they have always given land back in order to achieve peace. I mean, that happened over and over. It happened with Egypt. They're always willing to do that. They use it often as a bargaining chip. Now, if you want to ask me if I think this current Israeli government is a little too extreme for my liking in a lot of their rhetoric, I'm going to say, yeah, I definitely believe that, right? I think those guys say a lot of really crazy shit, but the shit that those guys say doesn't always translate into policy. Yeah. Almog, by the way, we have Almog in my chat, not only is he Israeli, but he's from one of the kibbutzim that was attacked in October 7th. So if you have any questions for him, feel free to ask, because he's a great person to talk to. In my Almog, in my Kick chat, he's an Israeli from one of the kibbutzim that was attacked on October 7th. But he's saying the only way a greater Israel would unironically happen is if Jordan breaks the peace and attacks us for a war of annihilation, which would never happen. And, you know, they've offered Palestine states before. And, you know, this idea that the deals that they were offered weren't very good, I've not, you know, when I look at the deals, when I look at the way the negotiations went, you listen to, you know, Bill Clinton talk about how the negotiations went. You listen to how other negotiators who were there talk about the ways the negotiations went. And, like, it sounded to me like they were being offered quite a lot. I think the only person who doesn't really accept that is Ehud Barak, but he's sort of been a thorn in the side of a lot of people for a long time. If you believe in the greater Israel shtick, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq is in the way of Iran. If annexing it was their aim, it would be retarded to work your way outward in. You'd work your way in outwards. Yeah, it's just greater Israel is not a realistic possibility. People like the Kahanists, they talk. Okay, rate of Jewish Israelis supporting expulsion of Gaza residents. What is this in reference?
This was was an article from 28 May 2025.
28th of May 2025. So this is when they were talking about the Trump rebuilding of Gaza, correct?
I think so. See, here there are the different questions that I said before, like expulsion of Gaza as overwhelming support. Then there is the Jewish Israeli support in expulsion of Israeli Arabs. That is not like Israeli Arab citizens.
Okay, so here's an interesting thing. For example, right? This question: rate of Jewish Israelis believing that all residents of a conquered enemy city should be killed. I imagine the way that was proposed in the way that question was posed in Hebrew probably specifically used the word Amalek. And Amalek has a very different meaning from the general word for enemy in Hebrew. If I'm not incorrect, right, Almog?
Let's see. I have put also the PDF so you can see it too if you want.
Let's see. It just means enemy generally.
I mean, it's still pretty insane.
Where is this? Okay. Biblical language, just fine. Ginsburg's other cause was real. What is this?
I think too that this was because
this is just
before
an article. I'd like the full
because
poll.
Yeah,
this is an article from Haaretz. I just
I will find the
poll
original
itself. Yeah,
I will try to find the original one.
Yeah, I'd like to see who did the poll, how they posed these questions, because that's going to tell us a lot. But yeah, also keep in mind, this was during the time they were talking about the Trump Gaza thing and all of that, so I would expect these numbers to be a bit higher. What's his position? He's generally pretty anti He believes that Israeli society has sort of suffered a moral collapse. Essentially, is sort of like a very way
because
to say
they have dehumanized themselves through
A
these
recent
years.
poll among Israeli Jews, as reported in Haaretz, produced truly shocking results. 82% of respondents reportedly supported the forcible expulsion of Palestinians from Gaza, while 56% supported expelling Palestinian citizens of Israel. The poll suggests an extreme reality has garnered significant attention. We, too, were alarmed by these findings for an additional reason. We believe they are wrong. At around the same time this poll was conducted, Tel Aviv University fielded a comprehensive large-scale survey as part of its ongoing Israel National Election Studies research project. In that study, participants were asked whether they would support a solution for Gaza that includes transferring its population to another country or countries. Among Jewish respondents, agreement stood at 53%, and among the entire Israeli population, including Arab citizens, it was 45%. In other words, while support for population transfer is indeed appallingly high, it is far from a public consensus. How then did the Haaretz report survey yield an expulsion support figure that was nearly 30% higher than that found in the Tel Aviv University study? The first explanation lies in the sample itself. This is why I wanted to look at the raw data of this. An analysis of the raw data, which the poll's authors shared with us in full transparency, revealed several sampling issues that largely account for.
I mean, that's an opinion article. I remember it. Yeah, but there I think
hang
there
on.
are
Let me finish reading this. One issue was overrepresentation of certain right-wing demographics, such as young people and Likud voters, beyond their actual proportion in the general population. Another issue was the inclusion of suspicious respondents who provided implausible ideology incongruent responses. For instance, 30% of survey respondents identifying as voters of the left-leaning Labour Party expressed for support for murdering the entire population of any cities the army might occupy? That doesn't make sense. Another factor contributing to the skewed results was questionable wording. I knew it. Respondents were not allowed to answer "don't know" or "I'm not sure." Forcing participants to choose a side often leads them to take a position even when they don't genuinely have one. By contrast, a survey conducted in February by the Accord Center also asked Jewish respondents about their views on the forcible expulsion of Gaza residents. In that study, about a quarter of respondents expressed no opinion. A lack of opinion is itself a meaningful opinion, and masking it artificially inflates active support. Beyond these technical considerations, we believe the survey's choice of questions failed to capture the deep complexity and confusion currently shaping Israel public opinion regarding the future of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. When viewed through a broader lens, many Israelis indeed harbor deep resentment towards Palestinians, resentment often accompanied by skepticism and dehumanization. These sentiments have intensified significantly since October 7, 2023. At the same time, however, there has been no rightward convergence regarding possible solutions to the conflict. In fact, no single plan currently enjoys majority support among the Israeli public. According to the Tel Aviv University study, 37% of Israelis support a two-state solution, while 34% favor a single state without equal rights for Palestinians. The study also offered a range of policy options for Gaza beyond expulsion. Notably, 44% of respondents supported transferring control of Gaza to international actors or foreign governments, a figure roughly equal to those favoring expulsion. In contrast, only 15% supported rebuilding Israeli settlements in Gaza. Even within the 45% who expressed support for expulsion of Gazans, the picture was more complex than it might seem. About half of these respondents also supported placing Gaza under foreign control, and only a quarter supported reestablishing settlements. Either way, there's no denying that these findings are alarming, but do they reflect deeply held beliefs, or are they a response to current events? Demonization of the enemy, support for indiscriminate killing and population expulsion are unfortunately characteristic of ethno-national conflicts like ours, especially during periods of active fighting. Fear and the erosion of hope fuel such attitudes. And according to the Tel Aviv University study, fear does dominate Israelis' thinking. It finds that 2/3 of Israelis believe the Palestinians ultimately seek to conquer Israel and destroy a significant portion of the Jewish population. This fear should be factored into interpretations of current trends, and we should be cautious in assuming they would remain the same when the fighting stops. Equally crucial is the fact that support for different kinds of solutions is shaped by the range of political options our leaders offer us. When members of Netanyahu's government promote extremist solutions, such as population expulsion, actions that constitute war crimes, without encountering strong opposition from political rivals, and when the president of the world's most powerful nation legitimizes such ideas in his own voice, they gain dangerous normative traction. When Israeli opposition leaders fail to present a clear alternative vision, they leave the field wide open for radical ideas to take root. In other words, public opinion responds to the changing boundaries of public discourse. I've made this point a lot. And history shows that opinion can move in the opposite direction as well. In the 1980s and early 1990s, 2/3 of Israelis supported encouraging Arabs to emigrate from Israel. Within the span of just a few years, following the Oslo Accords in 1993 and the creation of the Palestinian Authority, support for annexing the West Bank and Gaza and expelling their population stood at only 11%. Likewise, support for a Palestinian state, which stood at below 10% in the 1980s, soon became the preferred solution for half the Israelis. The bottom line is that current support for population transfer, and even for atrocities like annihilation, is considerably lower than the figures reported in the Haaretz poll suggest. That nearly half the Israeli public supports expelling Palestinians from Gaza is appalling and a horrifying finding on its own. However, the data indicate that this support is not necessarily rooted in firm ideological conviction. Moreover, it is doubtful that such views reflect the influence of figures like Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg, whom the Haaretz article identified as a key source of these ideas. There is no convincing evidence that his barbaric teachings have gained meaningful traction among most Israelis. In reality, support for expulsion exists alongside openness to other potential solutions, and its persistence will depend on the political climate and changing legitimacy space in Israeli public discourse. We believe there is real potential to build broad-based support among Israelis for humane, sustainable solutions to both the wider Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the present war. But to make this happen, we need political leaders and public figures who will fight for these ideas with courage, determination, and clear alternative vision for what comes after the war. Now, does that not seem like a much more comprehensive and realistic interpretation of things than that poll that's very particular about how it's asking things?
I mean, there is, I mean, even if these really, I mean, I think it's a charitable interpretation of what is.
I don't think it's very charitable. I think it's pretty clear. It shows another poll that's more comprehensive in how it asks its questions, and that sets a very different data set. And it also points out methodological issues with the way the Haaretz poll was done. I don't think that's just an interpretation. I think there's a factual basis for a lot of what they said.
I mean, like even with these, like even in this way, you have a majority of Israeli Jews saying they back expulsion of Palestinians to another country. I mean, I just
but again, like, if you have like a yes or no option, you don't have an I don't know option. It's just a very clear statement with no other supporting information. You like
I think that it is a normal. Like I think that this can be reason can be point. These are points that can seem reasonable, and they may be backed up by data to some extent. But we have to keep in mind that all these happens like this is not one poll or one like these are all different polls that show a consistent pattern.
That's not true. I've not seen that. I've seen like a few polls here and there that you'll cite, almost always like from Haaretz. But like if you look at wider, more comprehensive polling, it's still higher than we want it to be, but it's never like the crazy numbers that I'm seeing from the polls that you post. And here's another thing, right? Here's another question, right?
But
no, just really quick. If we poll Palestinians, you know what those polls look like, and in your case, you will wipe that away and say, well, of course they are, because they're being attacked and occupied by Israelis and so on and so forth. But why will you not grant the same deference to Israelis who have come under terrorist attack for many, many years and decades and so on and so forth as well, right? There's a double standard here.
No, it's not a double standard, because there are key differences between the two cases. In like, for one thing, one population is significantly more affected by what happens than the other, is significantly more safe than less safe than the other.
Well,
and
I don't think the data really.
And only one October population.
7th, I don't think the data before
only
October
one
7th.
It is like October 7. It was a terrible event, but it was one event. The other population have had countless of them, even before that.
Well, hang on.
Like,
hang on. So have Israelis. That's not a fair comparison either. No. On both sides, there's just as many terrible events.
In proportionality.
No, if you look at numbers, there's no comparison, because Israelis are a lot more concerned with making sure their civilians don't die than Palestinians are. If they had been, I assure you, those numbers would be far higher.
I'm sorry, but it's like if you try to compare the suffering of slaves with the suffering of the plantation owners that sometimes get hit by the slaves' raids. It's the same thing.
That is so not even a realistic comparison.
On a quality level of the suffering, on a proportional degree.
Have you even did you even see what Gaza was like? What the West Bank is like now? What Gaza was like before October 7th? That comparison is so dishonest.
I mean, look at every. If you look at any graphic showing the death toll through the years,
that's not how we determine this. The reason there's a much lower death toll on the Israeli
living
side,
standards, the freedoms enjoyed, the level of oppression, any measure is incomparable between the two populations.
It's not. The way you describe this is you're using all of these adjectives to say it's incomparable, it's disgusting, it's terrible. If you look at the actual quality of life, if you look at what it was like living in Gaza before October 7th, yes, there were certain things, I agree with you. Freedom of movement was an issue, right? Those things I definitely agree. But if you look at what Gaza was like before October 7th, I'm sorry. Like, this idea that everybody's like, it's like the fucking ghetto in Poland. No,
I'm not saying this, but I'm not saying that
they're living like a slave's life. Absolutely not.
No, that's not. That was that was to make a point about what, but it's about the degree of proportionality that is incomparable.
No, but again, I've already addressed that point. The reason you see a vast difference in death toll isn't for lack of trying. It's because Israelis take far more measures to actually spend their money on protecting their civilians than Hamas or the PLO or PA ever did.
I mean, they have more resources and they are backed by countless funding by others, obviously.
How much money did Hamas pump into building all of those tunnels and underground networks, and not a single civilian was allowed to protect themselves in them? Meanwhile, Israel builds bunkers for their civilians everywhere.
I'm not defending Hamas. I'm not interested in defending Hamas. But like the degree of proportionality in like how
Nick,
lives.
I'm not saying they're not objectively wealthier. I'm saying if you look at the amount of money that Israel puts into protecting its civilians versus what Hamas, PLO, PA, whatever any of these groups that was governing these areas put into protecting their civilians, it tells a story that brings that Gulf and death toll more into focus.
I mean, I don't dispute that it can be true. I mean, I'm not saying that it can be true,
So,
but there is a
shit. Sorry, go ahead. Peanuts.
There is
Peanuts. I do this like once a stream. I choke on a peanut.
yeah, I understand that because I have more than average people. I was saying that there is still like okay, I will finish my points so you can respond to all.
Go on.
So I said what I believe is a matter of proportionality in the amount of suffering of the two populations. But there is also another point that we should make. That is about the fact that one population is essentially a democracy, also an ethnic one, and like a population of adults, a Malish country that has had elections, a normal political life, and more agency. And more agency also carries more responsibility, obviously.
Sure.
And more, and more potential accountability. The other side, as did not have these things.
Okay, but we're infantilizing them. It's just infantilizing.
It's not about infantilizing people.
That was their decision.
It's an objective. It's objectively true that
very
a population
well could have
that let me finish.
Okay.
That it is objectively true that a country where the population does not have political power is not equally responsible for the actions of their government than a population that votes for its government.
Nobody disagrees with that. The problem is, at the end of the day, that can be the case, right? But when the government is hiding behind the civilians, you have no choice. You have literally no choice. Because otherwise, if you don't attack them still, they'll just continue to attack you from behind their civilians. This is why international law is very clear on this.
I mean, okay, but they did not show to care about the difference between civilians and militants in these years.
Well, I mean, how do you figure exactly? I think they are. I think they're definitely. There's definitely a feeling, certainly from this administration, that they don't seem to care as much if civilians die in the way of Hamas, because they will easily blame Hamas for it. But to say that they don't care, they haven't, done what they could to follow proportionality laws for their own interpretations.
They are literally liable for genocide, and their leader is literally on an arrest warrant.
Well, hang on.
By the ICJ.
Hang on. First of all, they are not liable for genocide. They haven't even started the actual court case for.
I mean,
for
not
genocide.
by the ICJ, but by every other. By every other expert institution on these things, they have been considered guilty of this. By everyone, even their own organizations, Israeli human rights groups, like everyone can. The only ones who don't agree with this, the only ones who don't agree with this are themselves, obviously, and some of their allies, because they are afraid of pissing them off. so some of the European governments
This is
and the US.
a very sort of
This is
particular...
an objective fact.
No, it's an objective fact that NGOs, which are always going to be more likely to take the "we need to stop this violence right now"
the IAGS says that it's a genocide. The International Association of Genocide Scholars.
And I remember when they made that vote, there was like very few of them actually present, and they did that intentionally.
Yeah, that's always. I mean, it's a list. It's an encyclopedic list of groups. Like, man, like
only 28% of the scholars associated with IAGS were present for the vote.
How many? Sorry.
28%.
Let's see.
And the ICJ is the authority here. If the ICJ comes out and says they're guilty of genocide, at that point I'll say okay. But, you know, the IAGS, I'm not going to take at face value a vote where only 28% of them were in attendance for it.
I mean, we can argue about one vote or one group, but they are.
And it wasn't unanimous, by the way. Even for those in attendance, it was not unanimous.
I mean, like, I can understand that you can have a problem with one group or another group, but it's like everyone.
I have a problem with the vote. I don't have a problem with the group. I have a problem with the vote. I want to see a vote where all 500 members were present.
Yeah, the figure of membership who voted 28% is within the usual range of votes received for a resolution, which falls between 25 to 34%. I mean, to pass a resolution must receive at least 2/3 majority of those voting in favor. And this was well exceeded, with 86% voting in favor of the resolution. Okay, I will link what I'm reading.
No, I mean, that's fine that if like that's generally standard for them to vote on a resolution, but I imagine most of their resolutions aren't condemning a country for genocide. I believe there are a lot of probably other sub-resolutions, and for something like this, I would expect a much larger group of them to be present. Daniel, of course you can pop up here, yeah.
I mean, anyway, I will link it for who to see that. Hello.
Yeah, I was just looking at the IAGS website. Here's one of the things about the IAGS website. Anyone can be a member of that website. I'm looking on the website right now, and you can go for 1 year, 2-year memberships, or a lifetime membership
to the IA. I don't think those people vote, right? I would imagine those people probably don't vote.
It depends on what kind of influence, though, that they have on the people who are in the association. That's the thing.
Khamenei members are academics, scholars, human rights activists, students, museum and memorial professionals, policymakers, educators, anthropologists, independent student scholars, sociologists, Oriented international laws and film scholars.
It says we encourage anyone dealing with genocide in a scholarly or professional capacity to join. But my question is there any actual way that they verify someone actually has bona fides?
I don't know.
That's the thing.
I don't know.
I mean, here it says that I believe that the process that they put more focus on the peer review before the vote than on the vote itself, because here it says that the resolution was subject to rigorous peer review through the resolutions committee, the executive board, and the advisory board, going through multiple rounds of revision. Members were given then 30 days to vote, with everyone receiving a personal vote and multiple reminders sent about the vote. Voting was anonymous, as is standard with any voting in IAGS. Members are encouraged but not forced to vote, and then figure of membership is within the usual range of votes received for a resolution.
Hang on. Decision on public issue passes only if over 2/3 voters with the usual range of votes for 25 to 35%. There's not a lot. The resolutions passed by IAGS reflect the association's scholarly assessment on genocide, atrocities, denialism. The IAGS is okay. Structure membership describes its members as including academic scholars, human rights activists, students, museum and memorial professionals, policymakers, educators, anthropologists, independent scholars, sociologists, artists, political scientists, economists, historians, international law scholars, psychologists, and literature and film scholars. Despite the wide range of professions represented, the IAGS stated in early September 2025 its membership was still composed primarily of scholars, academics from a wide range of disciplines. The early membership of IAGS was mostly Jewish and Armenian, with some Israelis, and of course male and all white. By 2023, IAGS had become fully international, no longer American or European centered. Okay, so from what I'm seeing here, the International Association of Genocide Scholars is an open, inclusive organization that accepts members committed to studying or preventing genocide, including academics, practitioners, activists, and students. Membership is primarily achieved through self-selection via an online application process with fees structured based on income and, in some cases, geographic location. Yeah. I don't think there's strict vetting or verification of the people who are allowed into IAGS. It's open to all who are committed to working on issues pertaining to genocide.
Yeah, but they are all scholars.
And the vote, to be clear, the vote was that it meets the legal definition. And even under their own description of who is allowed in, many of those things don't actually possess the legal expertise to comment on what meets a legal definition.
It's true, but I think it's still like we are doing
I could join. I could join tomorrow if I wanted to, if I put the money in.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And I could be a voting member.
And that's the point I was bringing out. Anyone can be a voting member.
That's what the website says. It's self-selection membership.
Yeah,
there's nothing on their own site that says they have someone who's going to go through and check your credentials. They say they're open to anyone who is committed to working against genocide and so on and all these things. That means I could join it tomorrow and be a voting member.
Yeah, but you have to be a scholar.
No, you don't.
No.
You don't.
All the members.
They don't make you submit anything. It's open. You can become a member online.
For instance, I've never been to Sudan in my life, but I for instance, if I just wanted to on this website, I could claim that I'm an expert in the genocide in Sudan.
Look, it includes artists in the list, independent scholars, students. I just call myself an artist, call myself an independent scholar. Boom. I'm in.
Independent journalist.
It is actually that simple, but I guess we can't say otherwise by the description.
Lifetime membership, $1,200. I click become a member, right? First name, last name, city, country, bio, phone number, affiliation, website, and links if you want to add them. Can media contact you as subject matter expert? You can check a box. Are you part of the Women's Caucus? You can check a box. Are you part of the Indigenous Caucus? You can check a box. Username, email, password confirmation, sign up. That's all it takes.
As you wish. I think it's still jumping at straws given the number of these organizations that have said the same thing. But if
the problem is,
but years later, a lot of them have started to like also talk about certain things that they refused to initially, right? Like they're not necessarily saying, coming out and being like, we were wrong about the genocide, but they are also now coming out and being like, you know what, Hamas committed a genocidal act on October 7th, for example. They're saying all kinds of things they were unwilling to say at the beginning of the war.
And I just want to flip this argument. If I came to you with a website, and I was claiming to make it as an authoritative source, as an expert source, and the website
the only reason we are even questioning the authoritativeness of this is because they have accused Israel.
No. The reason that I question the authoritativeness of the source,
we have missiles inbound on Tel Aviv live on my screen right now, guys.
The reason we question the authoritativeness of the source is because it's claiming to be an expert opinion. Okay? And like I was saying before, if we just flip this situation, if I was trying to make an argument to you, and I presented to you a source for a website where anyone can join and sign up, would you believe me or take the source seriously if it's just open for anyone to claim they're an expert without any verification at all? I sort of find it hard to believe.
I agree with that, at least on principle. I mean,
exactly. And so this is no different. This source is claiming to be an expert source. They should be able to put up credentials that it is a verified source.
Yeah, we don't know out of the people who voted. We have no idea which one of them is an artist, which one of them is a, quote, independent scholar. We've no idea. And based on all the lists of the different things they have, I mean, the assumption is most of them are not legally qualified to make a determination on a legal issue.
Usually, if there's organizations that are presenting themselves in expert ways, usually the organizations are willing to put forth credentialed evidence that the people that they have in their organization are experts. They're going to say, here, we have the facts, we can prove it, we're not afraid to present our evidence.
But
you don't usually hide behind anonymity.
My chat is asking for you to put forth the legal argument that you believe justifies the determination of genocide.
Why I believe that it is a genocide.
Mm-hmm.
The legal argument.
The legal argument.
I mean, there is. Wait a moment. The Genocide Convention. Because I had made a post about this. So I will just research it and. Okay, this is what I had written. Okay. This is what I had written when May of 2025. So,
With
I mean, I
intent
can
to
reread
destroy.
it.
Okay.
We'll also go to the. The general, where is the general? All right. I will go to the.
Wait, where is the? Where is the entire argument is about intent? That's the only thing that matters.
The
right?
entire argument is about intent. That's the only thing. Whereas the entire argument is about
my friend, I'm echoing from my yeah. So that's what you have to prove, is that the intent is there to destroy the people, right? That's the point. Because if you say, to be very clear, saying that they are killing Hamas members and they are not caring very much about civilians dying and collateral, that is not genocide. That could be determined to be war crimes, but that's not genocide. You have to have a positive intent for genocide.
There are declarations of them saying that their intention is to
if you're going to take
eliminate
quotes,
members, to facilitate the living, to facilitate the self-removal of Palestinians from Gaza and to kill some of them for it. There are declarations of intent that say that they
we need to show that policy, that there is actual institutional policy of them carrying this out. Because the declaration in and of itself is not enough when you're accusing someone of genocide. You have to actually demonstrate that policy is being carried out in order to do so. Because people can say all kinds of shit. People said shit like that when we were going into Afghanistan and Iraq. Like that, you have to actually demonstrate that the policy is following an intent to commit genocide.
This was part of the reason why after World War II, they actually found documents that confirmed these things were decided on as a policy. It wasn't something that just, oops, a bunch of people died in camps. There was actual policies on the record from meetings that determined that these things were going to take place, and they were actually put into effect legally on paper.
Yeah. Spent chat tokens for me to put my tanky hat on.
Yeah, did you hear me, Jordan?
No, I had to get up and get my tanky hat. Leo, look at this.
I was saying this is why during
there
is even the hammer and sickle. Yeah.
This is actual Soviet shit.
Yeah.
I got it in Moscow shortly after the fall of the Soviet Union. Go ahead, Daniel. What were you saying?
Yeah, no, I was saying that's why even there has to be actual there actually has to be evidence and proof of intent, which was why after World War II, there were actually meticulous records in Germany that were discovered where they decided on this policy that was later determined to be genocide against Romani people, Jews, and Polish people and others. It was an actual policy. It wasn't just something that maybe someone said because they were a moron or an idiot. Well, it was an actual policy.
I mean, beyond that, we have current genocides that are ongoing where it's like quite clear that there is intent involved in the genocide, like what's happening in Sudan. So, like, there's a clear difference between how these things are being carried out.
And even with Sudan, the case for genocide in the ICJ for Sudan has been going on for over 20 years, since 2005, because it takes time to gather evidence and collect things.
I mean, you have policies like this. I mean, the whole starvation plan through the blockade is a genocidal policy. like I mean, a genocide does not have to be annihilation of an entire group.
So
you just require
hang on.
the
if they had intelligence that Hamas had food in the region and that they would have to distribute it, then it's not necessarily the case. And I believe the total hang on. Through the entire war has been some 440 people have died of famine.
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, I think a lot more may have that, but it's irrelevant. Like, it's the intent, as you said. Like, if you do a starvation,
again, the intent was not to kill Palestinians. The intent was to squeeze Hamas. If you're going to ask me if I think it was a war crime, I probably would agree with you. I think it's a war crime. If you would have asked me if the intent was to starve the Palestinian population to death rather than squeeze out Hamas, I would disagree with that point. And that's the key. That is the key.
No, because what they have been doing through their operations in Gaza has been to ensure that it became uninhabitable. They destroyed constantly things that were unrelated to any I mean, they destroyed buildings after they had conquered them. They destroyed schools, hospitals, and every other avenue. Like, they denied aid of basic essentials medicine. There is tons of evidence that their aim was the civilian population and
literally
not
every single of the
Hamas.
ones that you described were being protected by Hamas, by all of the things that you said,
but
medicine,
that's just
medicine.
Bullshit excuses.
No, it's really not. And the evidence of it has been shown over and over and over and over again. And every time it does, the folks, they just go, oh, well, it's just an Israeli lie. And they don't provide any evidence that it's a lie. Why? Based on what? They give you the evidence. You haven't shown that any of it is false.
It is. I don't need to provide evidence for the raising for this. I don't need evidence. I may need evidence for 1, 2, 5 hospitals. I don't need evidence for the entirety of an health system to
because
be destroyed.
when they have shown time and time again that they are not only willing to operate out of those locations, willing to launch munitions and arms and rockets from those locations, that they've built tunnels under all of those locations. The fact that this happens over and over and over again, you think is evidence to the contrary, when they show every single time that there are these constructions underneath, that they are operating out of these areas. Doctors who have worked there have eventually come out and said, well, yeah, we actually were treating Hamas people. We actually did have Hamas people there.
I'll be right back, George.
Like, they do it over and over again.
It was the government of the area. Of course, the health officials worked also with the government. It's normal. I don't like this. Does not mean that under every hospital there was a secret.
They were saying the doctors are coming out. They were saying, there were rooms that we couldn't go into that Hamas said if we did, they would shoot us. And then lo and behold, they find tunnels going in and out of the hospitals or running under the hospitals.
Even if that was true and under every single health building, which is a ridiculous claim, but
not every single one. There are still hospitals that are operating in Gaza.
Very few.
Oh, sure, very few. Yeah. Because what happens? You destroy one of them, they move on to the next one to fight out of.
Yeah, and it's a total mystery that.
No, but they don't actually have any military. They don't have any military. Oh my God, infrastructure there. They don't have any. So where else are they going to operate out of? If you don't have any military infrastructure, where can you operate out of? You tell me.
They have literally destroyed buildings and killed medical officials after they had taken the building. They continuously destroyed the means for providing care and life support to the civilian population after an area in question had been taken over by their forces. Like
so you're saying they took over the forces, they had full control of an area, and then they just went through a hospital and destroyed all the equipment and okay, can you show me evidence of this, please?
Like you have the large majority of the strip raisin.
I'm asking you to show me evidence. I'm sorry. To be very clear, you just made a claim that they would capture an area, go in, and just, for shits and giggles, destroy medical equipment. Can you please provide me with evidence of this claim?
Let's see.
This would be the first I've heard of it.
I mean, I'm finding articles randomly, but they exist.
Pop them in the chat.
Oh wait, in the... Alright.
Stop it. Yeah. Is that for real, or are you fucking trolling right now?
I mean, it is
No, I'm talking to my
only
chat.
Western sources are fine.
I'm talking to my chat. I'm not even talking. I mean, listen. Middle East Monitor. Look, I'm not wiping it and ignoring it just because it's Middle East Monitor on its face, but this is not about being Eastern or Western sources. This is about Middle East Monitor being unreliable.
Okay, we'll find someone else.
But let me look at this. Okay. They filmed themselves destroying medical equipment. One soldier seen uses a rifle to smash an ultrasound machine. Gaza reels from lack of medical teams. Okay.
Hey, there is from PBS.
This is... Okay, so if this is true, we have a report of individual soldiers going in. What's the source on this? Okay. A look inside Gaza hospital raided by Israeli forces. United Nations going to approve resolution. Full transcript. Al-Shifa. Al-Shifa. Okay. Gaza's biggest city. Shifa hospital. Alright, see you later, neighbor Rooney. Take care. Okay. There's nothing too crazy in this PBS thing.
For 25 years, Consumer Cellular's goal has been to provide wireless service that helps people communicate and connect. We offer a variety of no-contract plans, and our U.S.-based customer
In a
service team can help
statement, the
find one that fits
Palestinian
you.
mission to the
To learn
United
more,
States
visit
called it a said
consumercellular.tv.
Israeli soldiers terrorized
Welcome to the
civilians,
NewsHour.
ransacked rooms, destroyed equipment, and bit medical stuff.
And they have, and okay. Do we? I mean, you said who said that?
It's in the article from the John Young part.
In the
as
MEM
the
article.
With, the PBS article.
The United Nations Security Council
the
approved
John
a
Young part
resolution
of
this
it.
evening that calls for, quote,
The
urgent and extended humanitarian pauses
first
in the
John
fighting
Young
between
part of it.
Israel and Hamas in Gaza. The U.S., United
There
Kingdom,
are
and Russia
several
abstained.
John-
Meanwhile, in Gaza, the focus is on the largest hospital there.
Israeli forces entered the Al-Shifa hospital and the compound that surrounds it at dawn this morning, with hundreds of patients and doctors still there, but in dire shape. Israel and the U.S. say the hospital is used by Hamas as a command center, a charge the staff and Hamas both deny. John Yang has the story.
Inside Gaza City's biggest hospital, clouds of dust and toxic smoke from Israeli shelling as doctors and patients struggle to breathe. The Shifa hospital is no longer safe. In the intensive care unit, a doctor narrates the aftermath in this video released by the Hamas-run.
By the way,
I also
just to be
found an
clear,
opinion,
just to be super clear, you've seen the videos that have been posted of them literally going from the hospital into the tunnels under this specific hospital, right? You have seen those, just so we're on the same page. I just want to be clear. Because if you haven't, that's a pretty big gap in your awareness of the situation.
Gaza Ministry of Health. Even the youngest are deprived of life support. Rows of critical care patients were moved to the corridor, away from life-supporting machines. The doctor is pumping oxygen manually, he said, as this little girl struggles to breathe. Israeli forces entered the Shifa hospital compound at dawn in what the IDF called a precise and targeted operation in one specific area. In a statement, the Palestinian mission to the United Nations called it a war crime and said Israeli soldiers terrorized civilians, ransacked rooms, destroyed equipment, and beat medical staff whom they interrogated at gunpoint.
I'm glad we have Hamas to shed truth on this issue.
Israel says Shifa is not just a hospital, but also a Hamas command and control center, something Hamas and hospital officials deny.
So we're inside the MRI center of the Shifa hospital.
After searching for more than 12 hours, the IDF released this video as evidence showing a cache of weapons they said they found.
If you follow me behind the MRI machine, I'll show you what our troops exposed just minutes ago. There is an AK-47, there are cartridges, ammo, there are grenades in here, of course uniform, and all of this was hidden very conveniently, secretly behind the MRI machine. A laptop, we found it in the MRI room.
The IDF also claimed their search turned up technological assets belonging to Hamas.
Yeah,
just hours before the raid, the United States said,
I guess, Barcode. This doesn't really show that, though. That MRI looks like it's in pretty good condition.
It had intelligence that Hamas uses hospitals, including Shifa, as military strongholds. But officials said the United States did not license the raid.
Nope.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said no place in Gaza is off limits.
They said that we would not reach the outskirts of Gaza City. We've arrived. They told us that we would not enter Shifa. We've entered. And in this spirit, we say a simple thing. There is no place in Gaza that we will not reach.
Palestinian health officials say 650 patients and thousands of displaced civilians remain trapped inside the hospital grounds, including medical staff who chose to stay behind to care for them. Dr. Shadi Issam
So they're caring for them.
Radi remained with his 2 children. His wife was killed 3 weeks ago in an Israeli airstrike.
I'm not really sure either.
I have worked in the intensive care department for 7 years.
Let's see.
My wife was killed while I was working. I was obliged to bring the children with me, and I am still working. Thank God for everything.
Elsewhere in Gaza, no end to death and destruction.
I
In Khan
think
Yunis,
it's
to the
not a
south, this was a
defensible
shelter for a family who had fled from the
position
north.
that they
But for some of them,
did
it
not
became a
target
tomb. At least one woman
the
and 2 children
healthcare, the health service infrastructure on purpose. It's just
the only open
not
crossing along the
defensible.
Gaza-Egypt
There
border,
are tons of
a truck
evidence
carrying
that
the
they
first load of fuel entered the strip.
purposefully
Experts say-
worked to destroy the infrastructure
There's
for
also tons
civilian
of evidence.
survival.
There's also tons of evidence that combatants were working and operating out of those. So
it is.
I don't
it is
understand.
not an
If you look
evidence sufficient to justify their conduct.
That's literally written in international law.
No.
Yes.
It is
A dual use. If any.
They literally destroyed things that they had conquered. This is not a military necessity.
This was not. That was not at all even slightly proven by what you gave me. There was a claim. All there was a claim by Hamas that they did, and then they show the hospital where they are still taking care of people, and there are doctors there who are caring for people who are still in the hospital. They showed us an MRI that looked to be in perfect condition.
Sure. I shared you the another article by Human Rights Watch before also Opinion Juris, but I haven't read it very in detail. But also from Human Rights Watch, and I pasted some excerpts.
Water, electricity, let's say when people. Okay.
So what is this that you're looking at?
Okay. I mean, if this is true, it's obviously a war crime.
Yeah, but you realize that if it's something that is part of a pattern and is systematically done on the whole area, it is a purposeful attempt to eradicate the means of healthcare within the area, and thus to destroy at least a part of the group.
If this was just them walking into a hospital that has no affiliation, no connection to the enemy combatant, that you would have a very strong argument. But the fact of the matter is that's not true, and that makes things far more complicated and far more muddy.
As I said, the affiliation with the so-called enemy is immaterial when you have conquered the building.
It is
when
not
there is no
immaterial.
more. It
It is not.
Wh-
It is not.
when you have
Under
taken
international
control,
law, if you're
when you
looking at
have
it,
no internet.
no,
One thing
international
is
law
when you
does.
are targeting a military a facility that is being used for military purposes, even if it is also a civilian facility. I think it's still a
Really,
crime.
really, really, very quickly. How is this at all indicating the intent specifically to wipe out an ethnic group?
It does show evidence that they have been destroying medical means of survival within
I
an
understand
area.
that, and that's a war crime if true. But where does that show that they are intent to destroy in whole or in
Because
part
they
the
have
group?
been doing it. Because
that's not intent of that's not demonstrating intent of genocide. That
And
is
here's the thing,
potentially
if we're-
demonstrating war crimes.
Yeah.
This is why
And
it's
if we're-
very difficult to actually prove genocide, because you have to show that the reason they're doing this is to wipe out in whole or in part Palestinians for the purpose of wiping them out.
And there are still there are still hospitals there. Two, again, according to the Rome Statute and even the Geneva Conventions, it says that civilian buildings, this can include hospitals, churches, schools, synagogues, mosques, anything, they lose protected status when they're used for military purposes. Now, it does not say that once you conquer that building, that this is the thing, the law does not say that you have to turn that building back over. It's very vague. You can legally destroy that building if you believe that it's going to be taken over again and used. It does not say that the building has to remain standing. That's the law. It says that a building loses protection and civilian status once it's been used for a military purpose for the length of it being used. If in that time the building is destroyed, it's a tragedy and it's a shame, but that
When
building
you
should
have
not be used.
when the building has been taken over from the other side, obviously is not being used for military purposes
But it's
by the
already
side that
lost
you are
its
fighting.
status. It's already lost.
It's lost its protected civilian status. That's it. If you didn't want it to lose protected civilian status, you shouldn't have used it. I'm sorry, but it's the law is as simple as that.
I think that it's a very absurd argument.
Well, that's
Well,
fair.
you know what,
That's
you can
that's
take it up
fine.
with
You
your-
can, yeah,
you
and
can take it up
you know what?
law.
I might even agree with you that might be somewhat absurd to a certain extent. I probably even agree with you on that. But the fact of the matter is, they are obviously making sure that they're following international law, at least in some cases. Not in every case. I'm sure war crimes have been committed, but like.
And
If the international law were different, right, we could look at that and potentially see a different either behavior or a different application of that. But like,
and one of the
that's
one of the
that's
issues
where it
too is that when the IDF went into certain areas, they would go into certain areas, they would clear the area, then they would move on to a different area, try to clear that area and move on. And in the process of doing that, areas that they had cleared ended up getting taken control of again, because in the middle of a war zone, when you're going from area to area and you're not just staying there and maintaining control over an area, territory can switch hands multiple times in a war, especially in such a condensed area.
goes around and show intent. No, we have been talking a bit about asking to show intent, Almog. That is what we've been sort of pressing on, and that is sort of the end of it all. It's like we can talk about the war crimes, and like some of them I'll be like, yeah, this looks like a war crime. Some of them I'll be like, I don't know if that's necessarily a war crime, but like war crimes are not genocide. Those are different things with different meanings for a reason. Like committing a lot of war crimes doesn't automatically mean you're committing genocide. It's just not. There's a reason those things are not the same. Genocide specifically means the intent to wipe out in whole or in part an ethnic group.
Yes, but did this eradication of the health services and the starvation policy and other like even the folks when they established that how was it called that pseudo humanitarian agency that was American, like it was done on purpose to provide like to make the conditions so bad that the population would want to live, and so like that there would be a part of it that was obviously eliminated.
If that claim were true as you stated, that is still not genocide.
It rises to horrendous war crimes, but that does not.
And we would call that probably a form of ethnic cleansing, which doesn't really have a legal definition, but it would be war crimes, yeah. But it's not genocide.
And the other thing too is that if we're going to talk about eradication, the medical services have not been eradicated. There are still hospitals that are functioning there, and albeit those hospitals are definitely, you're not going to find them to be as well staffed and funded as a hospital, say, anywhere else in the Middle East right now that's not in the middle of a war. But it's an incorrect statement to say that all the health services have been eradicated there.
Wait, but guys, we've forgotten the most important part here, okay? Bozo is in fucking hell. Let's go. I'm playing it again.
Our dear,
I gotta play the video one more time.
I guess, for me.
No, you don't think he's a good guy. I know you don't think he's a good guy.
I don't think so, obviously. Yeah. I think he's a piece of shit. But there are pieces of shit that I don't think should die in the current moment.
Sorry, wait, Leo, just watch my stream for a second. Just dance with us. Just this one time. I've got the fucking tanky hat on. I've got the tanky hat on, okay? Just dance with us.
Lol. Ah, yeah. That's the funeral original version.
Yep, the Ghanaian funeral.
Yeah. Ah, yeah, there was no, I was thinking about another guy. Look. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you should be so happy about this, but
I mean, I'm hoping this leads to a new era of peace in the Middle East.
It's not going to lead to peace, it's going to lead either to nothing or to chaos. But
and what if it does lead to peace?
Sort of like the revolution in '79. It led to more chaos.
If it leads to peace, will you thank Bibi? Can I get a thank you, Bibi, if it leads to peace? No?
No, you don't have to end it to each person sometimes.
Well, if there's a real regime change, if Pahlavi takes over and there's like an actual good regime change, it could.
That would be the nightmare for leftists. That's the nightmare for leftists because they don't want Iran becoming a Western-leaning nation.
I was perfectly fine with Iran becoming Western until your CIA and their British fellows capped them, you know?
You weren't even born then, my brother.
It is still the reason for our current situation.
How could you have been fine with it if you weren't born?
I mean, it is to say that I am okay with our country becoming a secular Western-like country. That's not a problem.
Yes, secular Western-like, but not Western-aligned. There's a difference there.
Well, currently the Western X-block or whatever is basically the axis of evil, in my opinion.
My dude!
Well,
My
you know,
dude!
I mean,
I
you
mean,
can
like,
say that, but
like that is
if you're looking at
compared to who? I mean,
You're
like,
looking
don't get me wrong, fuck Trump, but like compared to who, dude? Everybody in the world sucks right now.
I mean, there is only the U.S. aligned bloc that in the last decades has, I mean, like
Has what?
the other bloc, bloc. It's not even a bloc, but anyway, like the BRICS countries, the only thing they have done in the last decades is the Ukraine.
Yes,
But
the reason.
careful.
No, you don't understand. There's also Chechnya. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. But the reason why there's Georgia, there's a reason why they haven't been as active, and the reason is because the Western Bloc is there to stop them from being as active.
There's also the coups that have occurred in
paladins
Chad
of
with Wagner
stability
forces.
and freedom.
Well, we had it for a really long time.
There's also
We
the
did.
coup occurred in Sudan and Chad and in the nations across Africa that have been backed by Russia and Wagner forces. To say that it's only been the Western aligned nations that have been leading this is a little bit fanciful.
They are the reason why the Middle East has been in chaos since the Iraq War.
Are you kidding me? The Soviet Union was backing different countries in the Middle East way back into
Everyone back at their own allies during the Cold War.
Everyone
Just
has
generally sort of anti-West
everyone has a
foreign
share in the
policy.
chaos.
Everyone
has a
backed
share in the
his own allies during the Cold War, but
Yeah,
the
and
other guys.
to be fair, the Middle East has been in chaos for a bajillion fucking years.
Yeah. So to just pin it on one group is not
It's
accurate.
never been in this
Everyone has
much
had it.
chaos.
That is simply
You
for a
must be
fact
kidding.
of that is simply for the fact of the vehicles of war throughout time. If people had tanks and planes and shit a few thousand years ago, it would be the same as it is now.
In the contemporary era, it has never been this much shit as it has been increasingly so in the period post-Iraq War.
I mean,
that's true.
Vladimir Putin was paying off mercenaries and putting bounties on the heads of U.S. soldiers.
Yeah, what do you think was going on in Syria? Who was stirring the shit in
he
Syria?
was funding his own guys. I am not disputing that, but like, look, now they have removed his guy, and the replacement is an ex-ISIS member who has not exactly been much better than he.
He's not exactly been much better, but so far
But you
he's
can't
been a
do too
little
much
better.
worse.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not
Okay.
saying that,
If you think
that's
about
great,
people who-
but like, you know.
I mean, if you just think about some of the
regime change
things
is not
they
an
do.
easy thing to do.
Yeah. It's not. Just ask Putin after 4.5 years in Ukraine.
And what about Yemen? Yemen's got nothing to do with the Iraq War.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to do with the Iraq War, but it is. But it has been. I mean, a lot of shit has been done there because of the Saudis, and the Saudis.
In fact, in Yemen,
are U.S. allies.
Yemen attacked the
but
United
like
States with the
we
U.S. as
weren't
whole.
really, we weren't really influencing things directly with Yemen. That's Saudi is an ally, not a proxy.
Yeah. And to be clear, if you look at the United Nations website, the legally recognized government of Yemen is not the Houthis. They are separatists who launched a civil war with the assistance of global South-aligned
Killed
governments.
an awful lot of people.
Over 400,000.
That
And
was some
over
serious
50,000.
famine up in there too. You ever seen the pictures of famine in Yemen? Ooh.
Well, I
That
mean, I
shit's
was going to
bad.
ask if you've seen the pictures of famine and death tolls in Syria, but you likely have because a lot of them, unfortunately, get reposted
Yeah.
and
I mean, in
relinked.
Yemen, there is not a good, like, no one is there is not a group that you can call the good guys, but, like, no.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a fair point. Like, Yemen is fucked. But there's a side that at least, is not attacking. Well, hang on, Almog. To say that there's not a side you could call ideally the good guys is true. That doesn't mean you can't point to them and say the Houthis are way worse, for sure. The Houthis are certainly worse. But that doesn't mean the regular government is great.
Yeah. I mean, the Houthis are kidnapping tourists from Ethiopia and forcing them onto the front lines. The Houthis
attacking merchant ships that have nothing to do with anything.
And not just that, the Houthis
exactly,
are
Almog. That's basically the situation, which is
child marriage.
why I was sort of breaking that down. It's not equal. It is not equal. That's for sure. One side is way worse than the other. Like when we talk about Democrats and Republicans. Leo, like, you would say, for example, that as much as you dislike the Democrats, they are objectively very clearly better than the Republicans, no?
Yes, I will for them.
I think we would say the same thing about the Houthis and the Yemeni government.
I did not
farther
delve
up the
much in
scale.
it. I know that they have been subject to particular criticism because they practice slavery. I think, and because they are an allegedly more extreme group. But I won't comment further.
It's not allegedly. So see, I can go to see some. If you don't want to take my word for it, you can just go look up any of the humanitarian websites that sometimes you like to look at.
I wanna.
A lot of these things will quote it.
I want to respond to Almog here in chat, though. Almog, I understand that that's triggering. I like it, though, because I'm getting to have my cake and eat it, too, right? I think it's great that Khamenei is gone. I want him gone. I hope the IRGC is overthrown, and I hope Iran enters into a new age. I also want the Democrats to do everything they can to use this against fucking retard Trump. Right, so I'm winning in every direction here. Okay.
At the end of the day, while Khamenei being gone is a good thing, the president should not be utilizing this sort of action without congressional approval.
I'm just gonna go the whole, he was supposed to be the no war president guy, right? He lied to all you guys. That's the one I'm going with.
I mean, that's true. It's not good.
So, like, for me, like, this is a win-win, right? Like, Khamenei is gone, and Trump looks like an ass in front of his own voters. It's perfect. Isn't there the 90 days you can kill people before going to Congress or whatever? No, you can do military actions without going to war. The president can authorize the use of troops without declaring war. Usually he's supposed to inform Congress, though.
Within 43 hours, he has to inform Congress, military action with troops, and usually, I believe it is a 90-day maximum threshold that he has to conclude anything before having to seek congressional approval in terms of the use of military force.
Military force, not a declaration of war, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I sort of take issue with is I often see examples, and it's very clearly seen a lot of times in the mostly in the leftist communities. And the issue is I will see people talking about Gaza this and Gaza that. But the problem is most of the leftists that I talk to, when I ask them about, if I ask them, what are your thoughts on the war in Ukraine? do those meet the qualifications, those same qualifications you gave for Gaza as for genocide? And the frustrating answers I get are usually either no, or I haven't heard about that, or haven't read
so
about that.
Iran confirmed it now too.
Iran what?
Iran is finally
confirmed Bozo is gone.
Yeah.
Bozo left the building.
Yeah, so it's now confirmed by Iran as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Bunker busters. Who was it who dropped the bomb? It must be the U.S. then. It depends on which bunker busters they used.
If it was that GB.
Yeah, 3 separate holes indicative of bunker buster bombs
That's
inside
the US.
Ayatollah Khamenei's home in Tehran. This is the case. The operation was likely kicked off at a time intended to pin the Ayatollah inside his bomb shelter and attacked it accordingly.
I think that was the U.S. then, because with the 3 holes.
Okay.
So this was similar, like I was hypothesizing last night, with the way that they got Maduro. They got him on the run. They got him panicked by launching some strikes, and they were able to nab him. And they did the same thing with.
Following communication with informed sources, this is the Fars News Agency. I guess Farsi News Agency. It's translated from Persian. Following communication with informed sources, it was confirmed just minutes ago that, regrettably, the report of the martyrdom of the daughter, son-in-law, and grandchild of the leader of the revolution is true. Also been reported that one of the leader of the revolution's daughters-in-law was martyred in the Saturday morning attack. Oh, okay, hang on. That didn't say specifically. So it's, yeah. I mean, if they're all dead, he's probably gone. Because they're all going to be with him. Yeah. They just don't want to say it yet.
I hope not, so I will wait until the confirmation.
I mean, it seems like...
They may not give a confirmation.
Yeah, I doubt the U.S. would say it.
Like this.
I really doubt the U.S. would say it if they weren't sure.
And if he was still around, Iran would probably say it right away.
Because if he was still alive, Trump doesn't like being embarrassed. So...
And it's like the last time there was military action, immediately afterward the Ayatollah released a statement.
No.
I do feel sorry about the grandchild.
Yeah, that's sad. That is sad.
Very sorry about the grandchild.
Yeah. Oh no.
I do hope in that strike that they managed to blow up that countdown clock, Jordan.
Oh yeah, right? That fucking countdown clock, man. Should really save him for days, trying to avoid an uprising. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what's the temperature inside Iran.
I would think right now that it's probably going to be chaotic. It's going to be chaotic in terms of having a power vacuum. People trying to decide who takes orders from where.
Well, the IRGC is going to try to take over, which means if that power vacuum is open, it's time to act now. There's celebrations, apparently.
Yeah, sure, my dear.
I imagine there's lots of celebrations going on in the streets. The Burj Khalifa? Stop. They are so desperate. They're so desperate.
Yeah.
Did it miss,
but you know what?
Did it hit? Or wow, this is just pure desperation.
It landed. It landed on one of the balconies. One of them did.
This is sad.
But that you know what though? That's just a taste of like what happens every day with the Shahed drones that Iran sold to Russia.
Yeah.
And so one thing I'm very happy about is that this is going to throw into chaos the sales of arms in terms of drones and missiles to Russia.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Because they're going to be potentially, at the very least, if not delayed, losing one of their biggest arms shippers.
The top comment is, I hope Mia Khalifa is okay. Oh, man. Let's see if Pahlavi has said anything. Calls on Iranian people to finish the job. Gives them a humanitarian intervention.
Yeah, I do get the feeling though that this is going to play very negatively though for Trump in the midterms.
This is everything I could have ever wanted. Khamenei's gone. Hopefully this weakens the regime to the point that there's an uprising and it's gone, and it looks bad for Trump. I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Yeah, it's sort of like that, the scene in that movie where, Baba O'Reilly starts playing.
Yeah.
And you're probably wondering how I got here.
Probably wondering how I got here. Monday will be an interesting day
yeah.
for the markets. Yeah, that's true. Oil's gonna get expensive.
If you imagine that the entire axis in the Middle East has now been completely hobbled.
Oh, one can hope. One can
at least at least crippled.
Yeah. Well, Tel Aviv looks nice and peaceful right now. We saw like a couple missiles go towards it earlier, but that was about it. I don't know how many they even have right now. They're probably wondering what to do. If it goes smoothly though, and Iran somehow get into democracy quick, would it be good for Trump or bad for him in the USA? I mean, it'd have to be real quick. Honestly, I think Iran becoming a democracy, that news would be far quieter than the news of the conflict.
Yeah. It will never become a democracy, and certainly not a Western democracy.
Why are you so sure?
It was a Western democracy before.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
They don't want it to become a sovereign nation, democratic nation. They want it to be destroyed and fragmented, or to be a total puppet. This is not going to end with some liberal happy ending.
Why? Because this is what you think the big bad cabal wants? That they're hiding from all of us? Is this conspiracy?
I mean, it's not hiding from us. It's in front of us.
I don't sit in conspiracy land. I wait for things to play out.
Because it's what it's what even they said. Like they want a fragmentation of Iran, or either that or a puppet government, but they don't have the support for it, so they will try to fragment the country.
Where was this quote?
What are you quoting exactly?
Is this Zay Squirrel?
Like what? Like who said this? I'm curious because that's not my understanding of things. It seems like a lot of support is going to Reza Pahlavi, who has said himself he only intends to be transitional
Nobody
figure.
wants Pahlavi in Iran.
Nobody wants exactly. He doesn't want to be in charge of Iran. He's just going to He just wants to transition the country into a democracy. He's said that over and over again.
Lamar.
I'm taking this fucking thing off. Apparently most polls show he's the most popular guy in Iran right now, according to Almog. I haven't been following those polls, so I can't back that up, but that's what Almog is saying in chat. It was intercepted, it didn't hit the tower. Okay. They're just taking pot shots at this point.
They're on. Oh, wait, they're on a speed run to, you know, basically alienate everyone.
Iran has attacked like 8 countries today. Yep. Pretty much. I'm pissing everybody off.
There's a quote that the state of Palestine strongly condemns Iran's retaliatory attacks on Arab countries in the region.
Wait, for real?
If you look on Lonerbox,
you're breaking up, buddy.
So look on Lonerbox page on his Twitter.
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming that this is probably going to be the PA.
There's for Iran's argumentation. Who is this?
Looks like it was a statement
This
released.
is not anybody of importance.
No, I think he's requoting. Yeah, this is from Ramallah. Yeah, this is from Wafa news agency. So this is from the news agency that the PA runs in Ramallah.
Okay, I'm looking at this that Leo posted in the VC chat.
This was from a year ago, but it was something that I had heard about for a while.
But this person is more of like an Azerbaijani focused person. I don't think this is this is not like a person whose opinion or points of view is very like influential within the U.S. government.
Were you quoting?
Look at the VC text chat and open the article that Leo put in there.
Yeah.
The same outlet is on the record for calling for Israel and the U.S. to support the secession from Iran of what it calls South Azerbaijan. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. Yeah.
Like it's a.
While proponents of Balkanization love to fixate on Iran's ethnic diversity, they consistently underestimate the unifying force of Iranian nationalism. Yeah, I don't think that's actually going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. I mean,
I don't think so. Iranians are very proud of being Iranian, and they want their country back.
Look, if things go as you hope, I will acknowledge it, but I don't think it will happen.
Oh, if they don't, then, what else is fucking new?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's also going to be a fundamental difference in how we hope things go, because there's a fundamental difference in worldview and ideology as well.
Well, I do think we would rather see a functional democracy in Iran rather than a theocracy.
I mean, my differences with Jordan on this are not really, I think, about the content, but about it's about the contingencies and the circumstantial realities, like the practicalities of certain things.
Yeah, we want the same
not about
outcome.
not about what would be ideal to achieve. I think on that we can agree.
Generally, we pretty much agree. Yeah, there might be like little differences, but for the most part, we agree. But you know, I'm not saying either that I think this is gonna be great, right? Like, I don't know that there's gonna be regime change. I don't know that for sure, but I'm hoping for it.
Chaos.
Yeah.
There's always chaos with any sort of regime change.
What I do know is that I think we all can agree that Khamenei was a piece of shit who murdered a lot of people, and you know, it's good that he's gone.
Yeah, I'm not denying the guy used repression, and the repression included murder. That's true. I mean, it's not denied that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Like, I'm sure. Like, listen, I'm probably gonna be pretty stoked if a more moderate leader of Israel is elected, right? And Netanyahu and his coalition, especially the more extreme parts of his coalition, are gone. I would like that, and hopefully, you know, there'll be some path somewhere to a two-state solution, if it's at all possible, which it probably won't be for a while, but you know, I hope so.
Don't think they want it like they don't even pretend. They have voted for it not to be ever the case.
Yeah, but that throughout history they've had a different set of opinions on that.
I'm
right?
just
there have been
saying,
like in the 80s they didn't want it, and then in the 90s they did want it. So like that can change
what
very
I'm
quickly.
saying is that the last years have radicalized also the opposition towards what previously were stances only explicitly supported by the right.
That's not again the way how we looked at that at the polls that you were looking at, I think tell a certain story that's not entirely true, but also like historically they have gone back and forth on that. All sides have. I don't think that's beyond the pale, because if you're saying that for Israelis, then you're saying that for Palestinians too, which means there's never going to be an opportunity, and I don't believe that's the case. I believe both Israelis and Palestinians can be de-radicalized.
I don't think that this is achievable without external intervention forcing it.
No, I don't think so. I think if you have peace over a generation or two, then yeah, that'll do it.
Because I mean, if we just look at 1967.
Daniel, nobody can hear you right now, buddy.
Oh, can you hear me?
A little.
What about
better.
now? Let me see if I can adjust my sound. Okay, how about now?
Okay, much better.
Yeah, so in 1967, there was the 3-day conference in Khartoum of the Arab League with the 3 no's, and it was all about never having any sort of peace deal. But you look at many of those nations in the Arab League changed over time. So again, populations change. Nothing is really set in stone unless you want it to be.
20 years ago, it was probably unthinkable that an entire portion of the American population would be okay with a Muslim president of a Muslim mayor of New York.
Mm-hmm.
Now look where we are.
I remember that. I remember years ago that I followed. I saw polling on Gallup. About would you be okay with the president being from this religion and the whole list of things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. I think the lowest score was for either Muslims or atheists, but I don't remember.
It's always atheists. Atheists are always the bottom. They hate us so much more. And Almog makes a good point. Again, if you want Israelis to want a two-state, you just need to convince them it's not a security issue. That's the only thing you need to convince Israelis to make it able to be a two-state. But the problem is, right now, there's a security issue. And the Palestinians probably feel it's a security issue for them too. Which is why I would say you might need a generation or two of peace before it works. But if you have that, well, okay, now we're getting somewhere. But that means, you know, it can't just be Israelis who put down the arms. It has to be Palestinians too willing to do
I
that.
mean, they have no power. Like
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because if you want to have the state, the Israelis need to feel like they have security, because the fact of the matter is, right now, they control the territory. I understand they have no power, but like, if you want that state, in order to do it, they're going to have to step up and put down their arms.
Yeah, everyone's going to have to put down their arms. Power massacre someone's family who owns several shotguns and hunting rifles. Okay, you can kill anyone, you know, if you're that determined. Both sides have to be more desirous of peace, and
like
that's not the case right now.
2005, Israel left Gaza, right? Said, have your elections, govern yourself, and, you know, Hamas is elected, and a year later starts firing rockets at Israel. The blockade then goes in place, and the path towards where we are now begins, right? Like, they have to take the step too. It can't just be one side. Everyone has to take the step. Yeah, Almog says, I remember being 5 years old. These motherfuckers shot rockets at me in 2008. You know, like, he lived it. He lived that fear himself. And this was before the Iron Dome.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you want to get down, I mean, if you want to get down to, if you want to look at what a unilateral disarmament would look like, what you saw happen at the Nova Festival is what would happen if just one side disarmed across the entire nation, as is. So both sides have to be willing to come to the table.
The Nova Festival. And that's what it looked like.
And Hamas had control of swaths of Israel for over 10 hours.
Yeah. No, that's what he's saying, Almog. Like, if one side just drops the weapons, then that's what happens.
It's the same argument that I see when people say that Ukraine should just put down its weapons for peace.
No, well, he didn't do the two sides thing.
No, it's doing the two sides.
Oh, no, I get what you're saying. He's saying, like, if they dropped their weapons and we kept ours, we wouldn't do that shit to them. It's only if we dropped our weapons that they would do that shit to us. I mean...
But it's like I hear the
He's kind of right.
That Ukraine should just put down its weapons for peace and just accept a deal. Well, it's like in the beginning of the war, if you look at the northern part of Ukraine, there were several cities, Bucha and Irpin. The people there were defenseless. They did their best to comply with the Russian soldiers and the Russian soldiers. They massacred.
Daniel, you gotta do something about your audio, man. That is just awful. It's like you're floating away in space, and we just hear you less and less and less.
He's floating away because he's too happy for the death.
Right, he's like one of those cartoons where they smell something that someone's cooking that's really tasty, and they just start floating away. Except for him, it's the smoke coming out of Khamenei's compound. Well, Tel
Am I
Aviv's
still
looking nice
floating
and quiet now. What's that?
Am I still floating away?
No, you're much better now. It really is, Almo.
Yeah.
It was really
Okay.
a relief. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would have preferred if Khamenei could have actually been arrested for what he's done.
Yeah, but that wasn't
it just
happening.
worked out the way. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Because just what he's done to his own people in Iran, that's more than enough to put him on trial.
Yep. Indeed. Well, he was in a room full of generals and shit. We'd rather not take risks. Kill all of them. Didn't they get, like, yeah, you got a whole bunch of them, right? Got a whole bunch of them. Almost all of them in one strike. Wow. Mossad is actually terrifying, though. Not only did they know exactly where he was, they went and found his body and photographed it before Iran could even make a statement. Dude. I will say this. Eric Bana kicked ass in Munich.
To be fair, though, it is quite easy to infiltrate when you do resemble a lot of the population in the Middle East.
Stop. You're gonna destroy the Jews are Europeans rumors. Don't do that. Mossad leading the agency that Iran set up to find Mossad agents inside Iran. I didn't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Mossad agents in Iran are Iranians, not Israelis. Good point. That is true. Because there's a lot of Iranians who are very sympathetic to Israel. That's so badass. Leo, have you ever seen the movie Munich?
I heard of it, but I've not seen it.
Let me show you a trailer. I think you might actually find it very interesting. Are you watching my stream right now?
Yeah.
Okay, check this out.
Yeah, I'm talking through the tablet and watching through the computer.
Cool, here we go.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside the Olympic Village in Munich, West Germany. At this moment, 8 or 9 athletes of the Israeli team are being held prisoner.
These guerrillas are a group called Black September. The commandos have automatic weapons on the hostages. A deal had been made. Now the Israelis have disappeared. Massive security force. In front of it, the Arabs have like...
They're all gone.
Every civilization finds it necessary to negotiate compromises with its own values.
We want to ask you, will you undertake a mission? You will have to leave the country and your family.
I can't live with refusing this.
We have 11 Palestinian names. Each had a hand in planning Munich. You're going to kill them, one by one. We deposit money into a box that doesn't exist.
200,000 for one name. Am I alone?
You'll have 4 others. They know useful things like documents, cars, cleanup.
He gets in the bed, his weight arms the device. I give the signal by switching off the light.
It's strange. You think of oneself as an assassin.
Daniel, I'm gonna pull that up in a second.
Think of yourself as something else then.
What's wrong?
It should have exploded by now. We found 3 more names for you.
You know how many laws we've broken.
You take up the phone. We hit the remote.
Allô? Allô?
We're supposed to be righteous. I lose that. That's my soul. Dear Papa, don't forget my voice. You think you can outrun your fears, your doubts?
Great movie, a Spielberg film, goes through all the complexities of being a Mossad agent and having to take people out like that. You know, that there might be children, family members killed. It's really, really good. Really good film. Look at this.
Yeah, it should be. I believe it.
Yeah, give it a watch. 2005, Steven Spielberg. Great cast.
Munich.
Yep, Munich. This is great, Daniel. Sources tell me the new supreme ruler of Iran has been chosen, Marco al-Rubayu, and will be assuming the role within the next few hours. Marco Rubio. Alright. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump on for a few hours, talk about all of this. Because, you know, normally I don't stream on Saturdays, but obviously with all of this, it was kind of important to sort of jump on and have a nice conversation about it. Thanks all of you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Leo, thanks for jumping in and chatting with us, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know it can be tough getting up and having a conversation when you have like a whole chat like sort of disagreeing with you. So, yeah, we appreciate that. Let's give the man applause in chat, please, for doing that.
Yeah.
So for the rest of y'all, thanks for hanging out. Almog, I'm happy. I'm betting y'all are celebrating over there right now, and you know, continue that celebration for me. I will see you guys on Monday, of course. Everyone take care. Bye-bye.